Welcome to Behind the Visual with Mark Hansen, a podcast where I interview all the people responsible for creating and producing all those images and videos you see out in your world every single day. I am your host, advertising and lifestyle photographer Mark Hansen, and today my guest is Philip McCanless. Philip is the creative director at Accenture in Los Angeles and a really cool dude. I talked to him for about almost 2 hours. And it's definitely the longest podcast so far, and I had a really great time. In this episode, you will hear Philip talk about what took him from living in Georgia to moving out to San Francisco and eventually to LA. Talks about working as the lead writer for Acura and his how that led to him being able to take the Acura NSX out for a test drive on their test track and just to get it up to about 150 miles per hour. So that's a pretty cool story. Talks about how he met his wife and the cool little story about that and how that ended up leading to the first job he ended up having out there, but he didn't meet her then, but he was supposed to. It's a complicated story, but be sure and listen and check it out. And also when he was working for Meredith, how their headquarters flooded and they sent out a request to a bunch of people who had home and garden magazines and asked them for a favor. So check it out. Really cool time. I enjoyed it a lot. I think you guys will enjoy it as well. So listen up. Thanks for doing it, man. I know this wasn't exactly on your hit list of things to do.
No, it's fun. I was just a little nervous. Plus, you have a really, really high bar for talent on your podcast. So I wanted to make sure that I deliver something good.
You always deliver. So, I enjoy talking to you just about whatever. So I think it's a good thing. Well, hell, let's just start off. Tell me how you became what you are today. How'd you become a creative director and all that? How'd you get to where you are?
Well, it's a pretty interesting story. I have an English degree from Georgia State University, and right out of college, I got into publishing.
So you grew up in Georgia?
Yeah, I grew up in Oxford, Georgia, which is actually the first 2 seasons of Dukes of Hazzard were filmed in the town that I grew up in. Like the Boar's Nest was a juke joint, a black club, about a mile and a half from where I grew up.
Oh, wow.
So, that
was actually filmed down there?
The first 2 seasons were
really? Wow.
A lot of the like the background scenes where I think they still filmed a lot of it here in Southern California, but a lot of the like the jumps and like the town, the city, the town square.
Was
Covington, Georgia. Like the big jump. They had that great Waylon Jennings song at the beginning.
Yes.
Just a good old boy. Well, at the end of it, they did this big slow motion jump. It's like, yeehaw! That was at Seeney Hall, which was the administrative building for Oxford College, which is 2 blocks from my house. And Oxford College is where Emory University started. So, So anyway, just it's kind of fun. You'd see like them filming, and the General Lee would be there, and now it's kind of like, wow, thing had a rebel flag on top of it.
Yeah, man. I was thinking about that actually today for some reason. It hit my head. It was thinking about, wow, not only did it have a rebel flag, it was actually called the General Lee.
Exactly. Yeah, it had General Lee written, stenciled on the roof, right by the rebel flag.
Yeah.
But so English degree. So it was in publishing, and then not any sort of fancy fun job. I was just a production manager. I wasn't using my English degree at all. And then my first wife and I split up. And a friend of mine who lived in San Francisco said, "Hey, why don't you come out to San Francisco and see if you want to make a transition? You print, and everybody out here is doing .com stuff. This was kind of the height of the .com, the first bubble. And so I went up there. I mean, how do you not love San Francisco? So I had some informational interviews, met some people. Kind of indirectly met my current wife, and ended up working for a small boutique agency called Grant Scott and Hurley, which was a spinoff from Goodby.
Okay.
And that was a really, really fun experience. We had a great office. It was right in the kind of Barbary Coast area in the ad ghetto, we called it.
Yeah.
Right on Pacific and kind of between Sansom and Montgomery. It was a fire station that had been built in 1906, right after the earthquake. And so I was a print producer, art buyer there, and got to be pretty senior.
What's the big difference between print producer and like an art buyer, art producer?
Well, like when you think about print production, you're thinking about taking an ad and making that ad into putting it in any format in any station that it needed to be in. So it could be this one ad was basically like an image and a headline. It needs to go into a newspaper, it needs to go into a billboard, it needs to go into a magazine, it needs to go into like a small square and Architectural Digest. So taking all of that and make and kind of managing the process of taking. Oh, I'm good. Taking my wife was just offering me some coffee. Managing the process of taking creative and putting it into lots of different channels. So and that involves all the different rounds with the retoucher and compositing and mechanicals and getting it out to all the publications and stuff.
Right.
Art production, oftentimes there's some overlap there, where you're doing the art buying, you're hiring the photographer, hiring the illustrator, managing the photo shoots, getting all that together, making the art directors and copywriters happy.
Yeah.
So that was kind of it was a nice extension of the skill set that I had already been developing as a production manager for a big real estate publication in Atlanta. But the thing was my heart was always kind of somewhere else. Wasn't really excited about. I was excited about producing other people's work, but I was more excited to start creating my own. So I had a really, really fantastic creative team there. The two guys who spun it off from Goodby, Grant Richards and Scott All. Grant Richards is Stan Richards' son of the Richards Group. So full on ad pedigree. He and I recently reconnected because he's retired now and he bought a Porsche GT3 and all he does is spend his weekends running around the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas.
Seriously.
Yeah. So there's a great video I'll send you of him doing a really hot lap in his GT3 at Circuit of the Americas, and it's glorious. It's actually the loudest car. I read recently it's the loudest stock car that Car and Driver has ever tested.
Really?
The GT3 RS.
I want that just for my neighborhood then, just so I can drive through the neighborhood. Just piss off all my neighbors.
Yeah. So anyway, and then he was the art director, and Scott All was like they call him the nicest guy in advertising, copywriter extraordinaire. Had played a lead role in the early part of his career with launching Acura in the United States. I can't remember who had Acura at the time, but anyway, he played a big role in that. Anyway, so he really liked the emails that I would send out internally to because I would just try to make them interesting. And this is a small boutique agency, so at our biggest we were probably 45 people. But he would just kind of hand me off little writing assignments occasionally, and I said, thanks, and the stuff that I would write would sell, and eventually he said, let's start doing more of this. And so he did a little bit more, but they still wanted me to be their producer because I was pretty good at that too. And I told them that I wanted to be a copywriter and I didn't want to be a producer anymore. And they're like, well, so okay, I quit. So I just quit. And they're like, wait, no, we really like you being here. Because again, it was a real small agency, family, really great people. And so I quit, and they hired me back as a junior copywriter, where I had been like print director or director of production at this place. So I kind of went like salary went
right
back down to square one. But it was got to work on a lot of great things there. We actually changed our name to Engine Company One, and I believe they are now Chemistry Club. They can see us. They're still in the same building. Great space. But got to work on some great brands. Like we had California Pizza Kitchen. We had Pandora for a little while. That was kind of cool. We did. We had Sears Point Raceway, which became Sonoma Raceway. Which got to work on lots of cool things. And then I moved to Los Angeles about 4 years later to follow my wife who had moved down here, and ended up working for a company called Meredith that became MXM, that
Now, is
became
Meredith the same Meredith that owns all the magazines and
yeah,
publications?
yeah. So they started a well, let me actually take one step back. Before I started working for Meredith, I freelanced at a lot of places, but I was still kind of a copywriter. So I was just kind of getting my experience working on lots of cool brands. Got to work on Genentech and Red Bull. That was really, really fun. Got to kind of cut my teeth on a bunch of good brands. Meredith hired me to work on Kia as a freelancer, and it turned out the work that we were doing really grew the account, so they kept me on. And yes, to answer your question, Meredith is the publisher of Better Homes and Gardens and a bunch of other
I
stuff.
shot for them a couple of different publications out of New York. I shot for them. So I was
Yeah,
wondering, I had a feeling it was the same, but I wasn't absolutely sure.
then we've been in the same building there because the MXM office was just above. The MXM floor was in that same building,
Oh,
right
wow.
in Midtown. So
Yeah.
it's funny if we were there at the same time because I used to go there a lot. But yeah, interesting story about that. The Des Moines, where Meredith is based, had some historic floods. Like the Mississippi just became engorged and overflowed its banks and flooded Des Moines, and it flooded their warehouse, their archive warehouse, and so they lost decades of
Oh, wow.
publications because you save at least one of everything, and they, obviously they're a giant magazine publisher, so they had all kinds of stuff. But the one that they were most concerned about was Better Homes and Gardens because that's a pretty iconic magazine for the United States, right? So they sent a request out to their loyal subscribers that we have lost like all of our Better Homes and Gardens, and or most of our Better Homes and Gardens, and if you've got an extra one, these are the years that we need, and
Really?
They got every one of them back. Like people just like sent them their copies because I don't think it's the collectible to the point of like National Geographic or anything like that, but people had saved their Better Homes and Gardens because I mean,
maybe they're a bunch of hoarders like my aunt who just can't throw anything out, man. She has hoarded, she kept everything. So she probably has every Better Homes and Gardens magazine ever published.
But those, recipes are still good,
Yeah.
and decor comes back in, it's back in style, so might as well keep all of it. So anyway, so they started a marketing wing that did a lot of direct stuff, and so they hired me to work on Kia. We had the Kia CRM account, and then it grew and grew and grew, and then we ended up they bought some more companies, like they bought Gen X, and they bought OGM, and then we all kind of merged together, so kind of getting close to one P&L. Yeah. And then once we started working with Gen X, I switched over from being a senior copywriter on Kia, and we had Mitsubishi, we did some stuff for Fiat Chrysler, so I was kind of becoming known as like this car guy. Shocking, I know.
Yeah.
But it really, like, career-wise, that really worked out pretty good. But then we started working cars. Yeah, we started working with Gen X, who was kind of one of the pioneer digital agencies here in Los Angeles, and they were our sister company now, and we were all in the same building. And they had Acura, and they had they had Acura.com. So they were Acura's digital agency, and had done the website for 15 years and won a bunch of JD Power Awards and stuff. And then they saw the work that I was doing for, this is so weird talking about yourself, I haven't even thought about this in so long. They saw the work that I'd done for Kia and Mitsubishi. They were like, hey, we like this guy working on Acura. So they brought me over to Acura, and then that just opened up the floodgates of really, really content creation. And I ended up being the lead writer on Acura.com for a few years, and that was just really, really fun because I love the car, I love the brand, I love Honda, I love Acura. Great storied brand, and Acura. I had an Acura. My wife has an Acura, and that was just really fun. Went through a bunch of vehicle launches and creating content for all that stuff, and that was really, really fun. And then that just segued into lots of other opportunities, digital opportunities. We became known as sort of a kind of a if you want a really awesome website, come to us. And we did Benjamin Moore reboot, did some other fun stuff. And then we were bought by, recently, a couple of years ago, we were bought by Accenture, giant Accenture. So I'm part of Accenture Interactive now. And this has been really, really fantastic. With the Accenture, when Accenture acquired us, about a year later, I got promoted to creative director. I had gone from senior copywriter at MXM to ACD, associate creative director, and then now I'm creative director. But the really great thing about working at Accenture is with MXM, it was, and we're still kind of MXM, but we're just really getting folded in. We hardly ever call ourselves that anymore. We did amazing work. We had amazing people. We got to work on amazing brands, but we really had to like kick the door down because like, who are you guys again?
Right.
You know? I mean, it's not like my wife. My wife is also in advertising, and she's worked for like all the bigs. She's worked for Chiat and Saatchi and you know, GMO and Hal Riney and Citron, Halogen Betacray, like all back in the day and stuff. And so she's got this pedigree, like she can just walk, you know, she just all these places that she's worked.
Yeah.
But MXM is kind of like, who are you guys again? So we always had to kind of like explain who we are, show our work, and then like, oh, you guys are pretty good. And then you know, maybe we'll take a chance on you. But with Accenture, man, holy crap. They work with everybody. I think they work with like 497 of the Fortune 500 companies.
Damn.
Something crazy. I mean, not in all in advertising capacity.
Right. But still.
Technology, and strategy, and consulting, obviously. So, but what it's done is really given us the opportunity to work on some really big stuff, big brands. Like just in the past, 18 months, I've worked on stuff for Google, for Microsoft, for State Farm, for the state of California.
Are you responsible for Jake at State Farm?
No. We actually did a really cool
What
thing.
happened with Jake? Jake went from being like a dumpy white dude to like a cool black dude. Like there was no explanation. I mean,
Right.
he even the new dude even asked the old guys, like, do they normally ask this? I was like, wait, that was Jake like 2 years ago that you just talked to. What the hell happened here?
I don't know, but I bet it changes again within the next 18 months.
Probably, yeah. I was tripping. It's like all of a sudden he was like, I'm Jake from State Farm. I was like, wait a minute. You look totally different from the last dude. All right.
It's like James Bond. Like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
they
Just
transition.
no explanation.
Right.
Or what is it? It's there's that show Last Man Standing with what's his name? The comedian who did
Yeah.
what's his name?
It's Sunday morning. I'm going to space on that.
Blanking on his name. But that show went off the air, I guess, because he had made some kind of political statement or something, and ABC or whoever pulled him off the air, and he came back. And when he came back, every kid was different. Like he had 3 daughters, and all 3 daughters, well, 2 daughters were completely different. 1 daughter was explained as gone away to school, and they had some Asian chick, young girl, who was, I guess, taking the place of the youngest daughter.
Uh-huh.
I never got any explanation of where she came from or how she got there. But then again, I don't really watch the show. I just kind of do it occasionally. I was like, wow.
It sounds like the Vacation series.
Yeah, exactly.
Like every movie, all the kids would change.
Yeah, every movie.
Anthony Michael Hall was your son.
Yeah, every movie.
Oh wait, Juliette Lewis is now the daughter. Christmas Vacation is the best one, I think. But
yeah,
yeah,
I agree.
Shitter's full, man. Shitter's full.
That one.
So I had the opportunity to work on some really, really big brands, and have thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, it's an opportunity to work at a really, really high level and do some good work. I can't be super specific with the stuff that we've done.
Right. Yeah. Is there anything that pops in your head? It's like, it's your favorite thing you've worked on? Not even just with Accenture, but since you've started, like one shoot. You don't even have to say who it was for, but like maybe a cool location or a cool brand or concept.
I had a thoroughly great time as the lead writer on Acura.com. That was just great. I mean, I literally wrote almost the whole website for a few years, and that's was really
pretty cool.
That was great, and that's just great practice. I mean, how do you get to be a better writer? You just write, and then doing something that was in my wheelhouse and getting to. They were doing a little bit of branding transition, so getting to help them sort of reestablish their tone and voice, but with a little bit hipper angle because the person who had been the writer before was a good writer, but she wasn't really a car fan.
Yeah.
So I kind of brought in some of that ethos of like passion of like automobile. And, you know, Acura makes great cars. So
was it Acura or Lexus that the first commercial came out and didn't show the car?
That was Lexus. Yeah, it was just I think that was Lexus. Pretty sure that was Lexus.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I couldn't remember for sure, but I thought it was a weird commercial. It never even showed.
They had that great tag, the relentless pursuit of perfection.
Yeah.
Oh, one really fantastic thing, maybe the greatest work day ever. So to answer your other question, I really enjoyed working on California Pete's Kitchen. Sonoma Raceway was really, really fun.
Did you get to drive around on that?
On Sonoma, oh yeah, totally. Lots of perks, but no perk like the one that I got for Acura one time, which was they developed and built a new NSX, right?
Yeah.
Which is, you know, like a storied race car that Ayrton Senna helped design, like put all the supercar manufacturers on notice because, like, oh my God, here's a supercar you can drive every day, and it doesn't rely on like a 500 horsepower engine. It's just got a 300 horsepower engine, but it's all made out of aluminum, so it only weighs like yada yada yada, and it's a Honda, so you can drive it every day. So released this car, brilliant. I mean, they're still appreciating. And then they announced that they were going to do a new one, and it took like 4 or 5 years for them to do it, maybe even longer than that. So finally, they released this genius car that had, you know, a twin turbocharged V6 engine, 3 electric motors, 1 mounted directly to the drivetrain that to help with the acceleration, 2 mounted to the front wheels that help for torque steering, and, you know, and for Sunday morning, I can't think of the word, but anyway, it basically helps the car steer by applying more force to one wheel as you're inside, you know, versus the outside.
It grips the road a little better.
Yeah. But they weren't selling, and because, you know, that's a pretty high price point. I think they start at 160 and top out at like 210. But you're with Ferrari and McLaren and all the bigs.
Yeah.
So they had this genius car that just wasn't selling very well. So someone had the great idea to bring highly qualified prospects out to the Honda Proving Ground, which is out near Edwards Air Force Base, like way out in the desert. It's Honda's test track, basically. Right. And there's a giant, like 7-mile oval, and then there's several road courses on the inside, and then there's like every type of terrain you could ever need.
That'd be a great job.
Yeah. So they brought in like highly qualified buyers and just gave them an hour in the car with a professional driver, and they got to go on the oval and get it up to like 140. They got to do the road course. They got to do like a skid pad, launch control, and it was, you know, launch control is pretty amazing. It's like 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds, like motorcycle fast.
Yeah, holy.
And so they asked so basically they wanted some engineers in from the plant in Mid-Ohio to come in and like talk to these people, and they wanted some of their marketing people to come in, just to like these people. They brought them in and just wined them and dined them, and they get to talk cars and like at the Honda's test track, right? So they asked if I could do it, but it was on a weekend, and they weren't going to pay me. But they gave us an hour in the NSX with a professional driver, and basically told us to just drive the wheels off the car, like, because like you're not going to hurt it. So I got to spend an hour in a brand new NSX. Like actually the top one that had like carbon ceramic brakes and all this stuff, and, you know, get it up to like, I actually got it like 150, like ripping it around their road course, and like run, you know, like 10 laps on the road course, and with a professional driver beside you who's going like, okay, brake here, now turn in, and I just watched my lap times get faster and faster and faster because the guy's sitting right beside me, and he was a guy who's raced Indianapolis before, Indianapolis 500, like, it was really cool. I can't think of his name now. But that, and then on the skid pad, like, break it loose, and then the launch control. Anyway, so basically I get to spend an hour in this car doing this thing, and actually, not take it back, because we were still their account, so technically I was getting paid for it. But I couldn't believe that I got to do that, and got to meet cool. And these guys and women that they were bringing out, like, they would bring their car curator, the guy who managed their car collection, with them, you know, and these are people who had like we would go to these auctions and spend $15-18 million on like a vintage Ferrari.
God.
And they brought their curators with them. It was hilarious.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
That level of wealth. Yeah, just like if you've got like 15 super exotics,
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of like having, a stable of racehorses. Someone's got
to have somebody take care of them. So I just sit there and the gas and the oil would go bad and all that.
Yeah.
You don't drive one for a couple of years.
Exactly. Man, I had a great drive this morning. I went up to, I got an old vintage 911 and I drove up to Angeles Crest.
Tell everybody what year that is.
Oh, it's a 1978.
Yeah.
Targa, silver.
Good looking car.
Yeah. Here, I'll show you. It looks a lot like this. Looks a lot like that. So Angeles Crest, which is one of the finest motorcycle car roads in the country, is about 12 minutes from north. The beginning of it is about 12 minutes from my house. I live in the Pasadena area. And I drove up
early this morning too. It looked like.
Yeah. Well, I was meeting a buddy. He called me last night. And so we met at the base of it at like 7:00 this morning.
Yeah.
So so it was just kind of overcast, but as we got up into the mountain, and you'll see this later, I'll post some pictures on Instagram, but it was crazy foggy at the lower altitude, even up to maybe 3,000 feet. It was as thick a fog as I've ever been in. It was like Sherlock Holmesian fog, like 10 to 20 feet of visibility, like everybody going like 5 miles an hour. And then suddenly, the sun came out. And we got above the clouds, literally, and you could just look down into the valley and see this pea soup that was beneath you. And so drove up, and it was just a glorious morning. And you can get up to like 7,000 feet, and it's kind of interesting because you can look. I guess it's like a continental plates coming together right there, because you can look down to the right, you see kind of this green verdant valley, and if you look to the left, you see the Mojave Desert, because you're up that high.
Yeah, really wow.
But just it was a great drive this morning, and I tried to never take for granted that I live in Southern California, and anytime I want to go for a drive through the Mulholland or through the Malibu Canyon or Topanga or wherever, or Decker Canyon, people have it on their bucket list to do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out to California. I'm gonna rent a Mustang convertible, and I'm gonna drive up the coast. Like, that's an awesome goal. I'm so blessed that I can do it
you are.
anytime that I want to. Like, just kind of, okay, I'm gonna do that this morning, and be back before my wife and daughter get out of bed.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I rented a convertible Mustang one time out there, and it rained.
Oh man, that's terrible.
Yeah, it was awful. Yeah, probably the worst, not the worst thing about this coronavirus for me, because I haven't shot in 4 months, but I was coming out to see you. I was really looking forward to that whole drive and hanging out. But
it's totally going to happen.
Stupid virus. Yeah, man. As soon as I can get back out there, as soon as this thing calms down, I'm heading back out there, and we'll head up and do it.
Yeah, we'll have to make a weekend of that. That would be great. You should stay with us.
Okay, yeah, that'd be killer. Yeah, thanks.
Speaking of convertible Mustangs, my brother had introduced me to motorsports when I was a kid. We used to go to Road Atlanta. And
didn't you drive some or race some or something?
He has had some race cars, but
did you? I thought you said you were certified. Yeah.
Oh no, I raced with the what's it called? It was in San Francisco. It's the here, I've got my license right here. It's called the American Federation of Motorcycles. This was about 10 years ago. But yeah, it's club racing. But we raced at Willow Springs, and we raced at Sears Point. We raced at Buttonwillow, which is down near Bakersfield, and we raced.
You were racing motorcycles?
Yeah, I was racing 250cc motorcycles. That was really really fun.
Put your knee on the ground, going around the corner thing. Holy shit!
I would say that's the most intense experience in the world, because the class that I was racing in was not that expensive to get into. So you could spend 15 or 20 grand and have like a really competitive bike. And so the grid was really full. So there'd be 40 people on the grid with you when you start, and head down, lights go green. I'm usually starting in the middle of the pack somewhere. You've raced this, you spent all day Friday and Saturday practicing and qualifying and like got your spot. And but you're used to just going into turn one like by yourself or with one or two other people.
Yeah.
Like lights go green, everybody takes off. There's this just it's like a bum rush essentially. What it is. It was like everybody like rushing through the doors of Target on Black Friday. Because you go into turn one. I'm thinking of Sears Point right now because it's like a up and left turn, and loud crazy noise, and you get into turn one and you dive into it, and then there's like someone like right below you, like right down here, and there's someone right on top of you, and there's like some other guys like right behind you, and somehow almost every time no one crashes because you have to go to classes and get your license and everything, so everybody's a good rider, but still you're just like trusting these people.
Yeah,
because you're just that's the most fun in the world is racing motorcycles. Like that's just the best.
Yeah, I've never raced.
Nothing quite like that feeling.
Yeah, I would think it would be very cool. I never raced motorcycles, but it looks like it would be very cool.
You ride?
Yeah, I haven't ridden in a while though. Let's see, when the girls were born, or Alexa was born, we were living near Tammy's parents. We're not near, but we live basically, you get on one main road, head down it for about 10, 15 minutes, and then you're off of, on all these country roads. And we were just haul ass. And then we moved closer in to the city. So all of a sudden the drive took longer. You're going through more city stuff, stoplights, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, I owed my brother some money. He was moving out to LA for work. And I was like, "What, you want the bike?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'll take it." He made like an extra $1,000 when he went out there and sold it. So he was happy about it. But yeah. So I haven't ridden in a while. And then he came home one day. We're at my dad's just hanging out at the pool. And my brother stops by and he's like, "Hey, look what I just bought." And he had bought this Harley. And he's like, drives up with this Harley. I said, "You want to drive it?" I was like, "Yeah." And I drove the Harley. I said, "Oh my God, I just want a bike again." But I haven't done it yet.
What was the one that you sold him?
It was a Suzuki. It was one of the cafe bikes.
GSXR something?
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Full on like crotch rocket, monkey fucking.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So it was a full on, and then dude, I loved that thing. I had fun. I had fun.
I was more of the crotch rocket guy too. I mean, I had a standard, but I had a Ducati and an Aprilia and stuff. So we would always kind of, because Harley guys are like, they're so cliquish,
Dude, I was in Myrtle Beach, and some dude there had a Harley who was friends with one of my friends, and I had my bike down there, and at the time I had a Honda. I can't remember what it was, some little crotch rocket Honda thing I had. Mm-hmm. And so I went riding with him, and we pull into some bar, and it's like all these Harleys stacked up beside each other, and I pull in, and I'm walking up into the bar with this guy, and this guy goes, "That's your bike?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "When are you going to get in a Harley?" I was like, "When I got $20,000 to just dump, and I don't need it for something else, I guess." But right now, I was like, 22 years old or something. I was like, "Man, I can't afford a Harley."
That puts people off, and and Harley's having a really difficult time right now, appealing to the next generation, millennials and Gen Z that don't have a lot of interest in Harley Davidsons, and their market's kind of aging out of it. So they recently hired Droga. I'm not sure how what they've done or how they're doing. Actually, I saw one spot that they did, and of course it's Droga, so that was really, really great. But the thing about Harleys that was interesting was, it's more of a lifestyle, because it's really old technology. But again, we used to just kind of like, not the Harley guy, like screw them, but my best friend managed a Harley Davidson dealership, Stone Mountain Harley Davidson, for a while.
Oh yeah.
And, he would come home with, just bikes, just as anybody who manages any sort of dealership does. And Mark, he would let me ride them, and I'd be like, "Yeah, whatever with this thing, ape hangers or whatever." Oh. Swear to God, every single time I got off that thing with the biggest, stupidest grin on my face. Like, it was so much fun. Like, this is great. This is, I feel like huge. Like, I need to get cool leathers, because there's just something to it. Like I can see how people look at it as kind of a religion. Like there's something about the vibration and the sound and 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 that thing that really annoys me, and I'm sure you see this as well all over the place, is Harley guys they're at the stoplight, they just blip the throttle. Blip.
Oh yeah.
And before they accelerate, they blip the throttle again, and then they shift it into gear and then go. I'm like, you don't have to do that. Like, you've got to.
Tammy and I were in Myrtle Beach. We weren't even married, and so this is a long time ago. We've been married 22 years, so this is probably 20.
Oh, wow. Congratulations, that's great.
Thank you, man. I mean, this is probably 25, 26 years ago, because we kind of dated off and on. We did, and she moved or I moved, but we were on, I'm going to say the 10th, 12th floor, something like that, of this hotel. 3 a.m. in the morning, the whole room is shaking. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? And I can't figure it out. And I go, wait. And I wake up enough that I can hear. And I hear something going, and the whole damn room shaking. And I get up and look, and it's bike week. And there's some dude sitting out front of the hotel on his Harley just cranking the hell out of it, at 3 a.m. to the point where the whole room was just shaking. That was impressive.
Yeah, that's why they call their big charity rides Rolling Thunder, because that's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, absolutely.
I had a funny motorcycle story. I went to Daytona one time for bike week. And I'd never seen, however, like 250,000 motorcycles or 1 million motorcycles. It was just like the whole town was bike. Like everybody was on a motorcycle. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then shortly after that is when I moved to San Francisco. And when I moved to San Francisco, I shipped all my stuff across and spent like 3 weeks riding across.
That's cool.
On my Triumph. Like I would say like 90% of it was 2-lane roads. Like that, I didn't want to get on an interstate or freeway, because I
mentioned that to my daughters like a week ago. I was like, next summer I think we're going to go to Greece because my youngest is graduating. That's going to be like part of a graduation present if we can go. And then I was like, how about the next summer we just go drive cross country? Maybe we'll rent an RV or something and we can just drive and hit those roads, because I've always wanted to do it and stop and take pictures and do whatever. So maybe we'll do it. But yeah, tell me about that.
Well, I was going to say that would be a super memorable thing for your kiddos, because my dad did that when I was 13, I think. We took a month and we did a national park tour, starting in Georgia. I think we went north first, and then we went across, and like Yellowstone and Yosemite, and came down the coast and did all the stuff in the desert Southwest, like Arches and Monument Valley and all that. And I swear to, and I was 13. I was like, I don't want to go.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I still think about the memories from that trip, like just Hoover Dam and Grand Canyon and Canyon de Chelly and Monte Vista, or whatever it's called, where the cliff dwellings and stuff.
Yeah.
Do that, man. Your kids they'll thank you for it later. I mean, by week 1, I was like, okay, this is great. I'm fine. But I complained a little bit on the way to get there. But anyway, the motorcycle trip was really fun because I'd done a few iron butt things before where we try to ride like 1,000 miles in a day. But I didn't want to do that. I really wanted to see the country again on the back of a motorcycle. And so I would go like 200 to 300 miles a day, and I would I'd stop in the little town. I'd stay at the best hotel they had there and eat at the best restaurant they had there, and meet some people, and then get up early and move to the next one. But it took like 3 weeks. I think the total mileage, like if I'd gone straight through, it would have been like 2,500 miles. And I think I did like 4,500 miles. Damn. So it was great. 2 funny stories about that trip were, I packed light. So before I left, I went to Target and I bought a dozen white t-shirts, a dozen pair of underwear. And that was what it took. Because toiletries, but I was just wearing leather pants and leather jacket. So that's all I needed. And as you go across the country, you sort of acquire things like a little souvenir here, a little something that, and I would just leave the underwear and t-shirt at the hotel that I was staying in, so I'd have a little bit more room in my bag. So I picture like this trip right there. I just left like a Hansel and Gretel trail.
Just a trail of underwear.
All the way across the country. But what made me think of it, Mark, was I went up to Chicago and then cut across. Man, Chicago turns into farmland really quickly outside of Chicago.
Really?
But I went across there and went through Iowa and South Dakota, and I'm going towards South Dakota. I'm starting to notice a bunch of Harleys like riding along with me. just, and like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I guess a lot of people are doing this summer riding thing, but then I was like, that's kind of an inordinate amount of motorcycles that are going in the same direction that I'm going. And sure enough,
Bunch of Hell's Angels riding with you too.
no, well, I'm sure some of them were, but I was riding towards Suches, where they have the giant Suches rally in the Black Hills of South Dakota.
Yeah.
And I was coming through there like 3 days before, so all the bikes were going to Suches for the festival, and because I kind of skipped Suches because I wanted to ride through the Black Hills, and then as I got past it, there were like the same number of motorcycles, but they're all riding towards me. so like. Then it kind of hit me because I'm not a Harley guy. I didn't really think about Suches, the big rally in August.
Was that Sturgis or such? What's the difference between Sturgis? Okay.
Sorry. Suches is a great motorcycle destination in North Georgia.
Duh.
Thank you. Yes. Sorry, Sturgis. I was riding towards Sturgis. All the bikes are riding with me from the East Coast, and then I passed it, and all the bikes from the West Coast were coming towards Sturgis. So they were all coming towards me. So that was
That's kind of cool.
That was a really great trip. Yellowstone was in that trip, and you don't have to wear a helmet in Yellowstone. And I'm a big helmet advocate, but I'm just going to be putting around with a bunch of bison. So I spent the day just like cruising around Yellowstone on my bike at 20 miles an hour without a helmet. It was glorious.
Yeah, with the bison. I always wondered about that with these dudes who like ride down the highway. Like in South Carolina, you don't have to have a helmet, and you ride down the highway without a helmet. And all I'm thinking is, well, not even the fact that if you fall off, you're going to crush your head. But what about, I had the like mask, the shield, and all of a sudden you're riding this thing goes, slaps you right in the eye on your shield. And I'm like, thank God I had a helmet on, because otherwise that bug would just crush my eyeball or like landing flat in the middle of my forehead or whatever. So my thing is, I'd be more worried about these bugs just slapping me all over my face than everything else. So I always wear a helmet.
One time I was out with some buddies and we were riding up near Suches in North Georgia. Great roads there, great roads in North Carolina too, where you are. But I used to wear a half helmet. Because I was trying out this kind of a standard goggles and a half helmet. And like we were going about 70 or 80 miles an hour, and way out in front of me, like I saw this little thing. It's back when I had way better vision. I was like, "What is that? What is that? What is that?" And it's approached really, really quickly, and it was a bumblebee. Hit me right here on the cheek. Right here, exploded. But it like hit me at whatever, as fast as it was going, plus the speed that I was going towards it.
Yeah.
80 miles an hour. And like left a huge welt. Like it looked like someone had punched me in the face. And guts everywhere. But man, it hurt.
I bet it did.
Really hurt. Funny.
Tell me how you met your wife, because you mentioned her a couple of times, and that's supposed to be a good story. So tell me how you ended up meeting your wife.
Yeah. Her name is Violeta Aguilar. She is from El Salvador originally and moved over here when she was 5. She's really cool. She's a print and art producer. And again, worked at lots of cool places. So remember I told you I moved out to San Francisco before I moved to San Francisco, my friend had said, come out and see if you like it. I can set you up with some informational interviews. She was a senior copywriter at the time. And I was like, oh, that's great. So I went out, and she had set up some informational interviews with me with like Max Fallon from Goodby Silverstein and Partners, who was their director of production for a long time. Somebody at GMO, and someone over at Citroen Howden Better Cray. And I wasn't like job interviewing. I was just kind of getting the lay of the land and kind of getting my name out there. And it was kind of an interesting time because everybody was moving over to digital. So there was kind of a dearth of print producers. So I was kind of in demand with my skill set, but I went to see this one lady at Briney, and I had back-to-back interviews. I had an interview with her, and then I had an interview with Max at Goodby. And so I was waiting in the lobby, and this lady sent her assistant out a couple times, and like, she's really, really busy. She'll be right there. Thank you for your patience. But eventually it got to be like 30. I was waiting like 30, 45 minutes, and I had another appointment like 15 minutes away walk. This is before Uber. 15 minutes walk away, and it was with Goodby. So I was like, I can't miss that. Mm-hmm. So I just said, I can't stay. I'll leave. Thank you for the effort, but I need to go to my other interview. So I go to Goodby, and I meet Max Fallon, who he and I get along really, really well. They weren't looking for anyone. He would have hired me actually, but they didn't need a print producer right then. But he referred me to Grant Richards because they had just spun off this new agency, and Grant's the one who ended up hiring me. So I'm so glad that I ditched that lady
Yeah.
to go to Goodby to get this job offer that I got a couple weeks later, because the lady that I ditched turned out to be Violet, my wife. She was the senior producer there. And I ended up meeting her because our circle of friends overlapped, because my friend had set me up with her to meet. So they knew each other, and we got to know each other socially. And then I was in a relationship, she was in a relationship. And then, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years later, we were both out of our relationship. So we ran into each other and said, like, oh, hey, let's go out for a drink. And the rest is history. It was cool.
So what point did you figure out she was the one that you blew off?
Because when did that? It didn't happen. It happened like much later, like after we were together, that I put 2 and 2 together and was like, oh, that was you. You're the one who blew me off. You need to apologize.
Does she remember that?
Oh yeah, she totally remembered it.
Did remember it?
You did remember it, yep. But I don't think she remembered that it was me.
Right.
She just remembered our friend telling her that her friend was coming out from Georgia to do a thing, and like, it was just one night we were having dinner or something, and we started talking about, when I came out to San Francisco, and she's like, I was like, was that you? And she's like, was that you? But she did feel bad about it, so that was good. That was good. But yeah, that was kind of a funny coincidence. I've had a couple of weird coincidences in my life recently, like the 911 that I bought a few years ago. I bought it from a guy in Virginia, shipped it across the country. The original owner's manual was in it, and the original owner had written his name and stuff in there. And he was from South Pasadena, like less than a mile from where I live. So I bought the car out of the country, and the first titled owner was like a mile from here.
That's
totally
a trip.
Yeah, crazy. And then this other thing, I told you we were in Palm Springs this weekend.
Yeah.
Last week, we had gone there about 8 or 9 years ago, and stayed at this cool house that was my wife's boss's house. She was at Shide at the time. Do you know Casey Mooney?
Nah.
She was a producer there for like senior director of production kind of person at Shide for a while. Anyway, she had bought this little mid-century house as an investment in Palm Springs, and she gave it to us for the week. And the whole time I'm there, I'm saying, is there anything I can do around the house? Like, can I fix something, make something, do something? She's like, no, it's fine. On the last day, she said, there's this cord that's hanging down. It's the irrigation cord. There's electrical for the irrigation in the back, and it's hanging down from the front. Can you just like go up on the roof and reattach it where it's supposed to be? So I'm like, oh, okay, no problem. She didn't have a ladder. So I climbed up these decorative screen blocks on the front of the house. Those mid-century modern houses right by the front door. They got the pretty cinder blocks.
Yeah.
So I climbed up, fixed the thing, climbing back down. The screen blocks, which had been there since '54, pulled away from the wall. And so I went,
oh God,
fell, shattered my heel bone really badly. Like, don't ever do that. It's like taking like a hard-boiled egg and like popping it up. That's what it did to my calcaneus.
Damn.
Don't ever do it. Really, really painful. More painful than any motorcycle accident. But anyway, so big moment. Like, it's still kind of a problem. Like, it still bothers me.
Live around?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, it depends on how much activity. But yeah, it still hurts. But about 4 or 5 years later, we were in this house, and our next door neighbors, who are dear friends of ours, a couple, they've been together for 20 years, decide they're going to go to Palm Springs. And we're like, for the first time, I'm like, you guys are a gay couple in Los Angeles for 20 years and you've never been to Palm Springs. Like, first of all, you're going to love it, and you're going to want to buy a house there. So they went it and they loved it. And they were like, we're going to buy a house here. And they started sending us pictures of the house that they were looking at, that they were in escrow on. And we're like, that looks really familiar. And so they bought the house that Violet's boss had owned, that I had fallen off the roof on.
Man.
And like, it was like 2 or 3 owners later, but they ended up buying the same house. And that's where we were. And so that's where we were this weekend. We stayed at their place. So we've actually been in that house now twice.
That's pretty cool.
Just like, how is like the coincidence that my next door neighbor bought this one particular house in Palm Springs of all the places? It was just really interesting.
It just means you're living right.
I hope so.
Somebody told me that's what it means if you have deja vu. It means your life is on the right track. If you,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, I don't know how true that is or what that, but that's what I heard. Maybe it could be like, the bird shits in your hair on Venice Beach. And oh, that's good luck. That's just so you don't get pissed off. Or you tell
Right.
the bride, if it rains on your wedding day, that's good luck. It's just so she doesn't break down and start crying before she walks down the aisle.
Is the is the bird shitting on your head good luck thing? Is that a thing?
That's the thing. Because we were in Venice and we were on the boardwalk, and this bird just walks over and just takes a dump in Tammy's hair. And we were there with some friends, and she's just like, "Oh my god!" She's doing this. She's like, it's all over me. And her friend's like, "I'm gonna go get some napkins. I'll be right back." And these two stoner dudes come up and go, "Dude, that's good luck. If the bird shits in your hair, that's really good luck." And she's like, "Okay." She goes, "Can I have your shirt?" And the guy goes, "Wait, no, man, you can't have my shirt." Because I think he finally realized that she was going to wipe all that bird shit out of her hair with his T-shirt. So at the last second, he realized it. So he wasn't totally stoned, but he was pretty good.
You do a good Venice boardwalk townie guy imitation. That was
Pretty much exactly what he sounded like. And then the
pretty
next time I was there,
good.
I'd forgotten that you guys, this was years ago, that weed was like medicinal weed was legal at the time. It just happened. So we're scouting locations, and I smell like some of these dudes just smoking. I look over and they're like cops 10 feet away from me. And I'm like, look at the scout location scout. I'm like, what the hell? And he's like, "Oh, dude, it's legal here."
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, all right." So later that afternoon, we finished shooting. We're walking back up. Some chick with a clipboard stops and goes, "You want to see if you qualify for medical marijuana?"
You're like, yes, I have anxiety.
I was like, "What you got to do? Just say I got migraines or anxiety?" Like, check. All right, go in and see the doctor.
It's funny. I'm not a big smoker, but I'm a big advocate for it. And once you kind of live in a place where it's legal, starting with medicinal, and now in California and a few other states, it's recreationally legal. It's just so odd to go to a place where it's not.
Yeah.
It's also weird to think about how in total first world countries like Singapore, like it's a gigantic offense. Like if you're caught dealing pot, it's like a capital offense. If you get caught with it, it's it's lashes, or it's really
But you can drink your ass off anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fine.
But it's just interesting, like that it's that different. In North Carolina, obviously, Georgia. Like when I travel to a place where it's not legal, you're just like, it's going to be legal here in 10 years. Why don't you guys just go ahead and do it now?
Yeah.
But there's so much. There's so many people who have sort of been brought up with these notions of.
I heard it started off as basically a way to keep Black people and that I'm not sure if it was Hispanics or at least Black people, because they were smoking a lot, and it was made illegal as a way to kind of keep them under control by the white senators or whoever. So
I heard that exact same story, and it's the same story now, because you think about how many, even with pot being legal in so many places, there are still people in jail right now for minor drug offenses for pot.
Yeah.
And I was listening to this thing the other day, this podcast. It was Coleman Hughes. Are you familiar with him?
Mm-mm.
Smart. He's a young Columbia undergraduate, really, really smart.
What's the podcast called?
It's called Conversations with Coleman.
Okay.
He's kind of a protege of like McWhorter and Sam Harris and a few others. But he was talking about it's hard to change the perception of police in poor communities, because at some level you've had them, take vital members of the community out of circulation for like minor drug offenses like that.
Yeah.
And once you have one bad encounter with a police officer, it kind of colors your perspective for the rest of your life. And I think that's a lot of what we're dealing with right now. Is this we hear the word systemic a lot, but the thing that's systemic is how poor communities are over-policed, or have been over-policed, and how people have had either directly or indirectly, like bad interactions with police officers, and that takes a long time to fix, but it's totally fixable, and we can do it. You know, like, but there's some really great suggestions. Like, let's be really very particular as we vet the people who we're going to let carry a gun.
I think you need to do some kind of mental evaluation and on these guys as well. And I think I was reading a thing the other day talking about how they expect after not very much training, in the whole scope of things, that this cop is supposed to show up at a domestic dispute and handle it. He's supposed to go to a drug thing and handle it. He's supposed to go to a car accident and be able to handle that. Then he's supposed to go to a robbery and handle that, and a murder scene and handle that. And it's all one person trying to handle all these different things that multiple people with different types of training should have to be able to go and handle. Because to send a guy who's spends half his day writing speeding tickets to some domestic dispute where the husband's beating the hell out of the wife and they're just arguing doesn't seem to really jive. I mean, how's that guy know how to, de-escalate that whole situation?
Yeah, exactly. There's the mental side of it. There's the physical side of it. I was listening to, again, another podcast the other day, because being a police officer right now has got to be about the hardest job in the world.
No, I would think, yeah.
And this person who was hosting the podcast is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu brown belt, I think. And he was just talking about how, and in those circles, the jiu-jitsu circles, when you see cops trying to restrain someone who doesn't want to be restrained, like all the mistakes that they make.
Yeah.
So you talk about like de-escalating someone who's got, some mental issues and they're wound up, and you send someone in there who's writing speeding tickets, and then suddenly like they do go for your gun or whatever. Like being able to physically neutralize them in a way that doesn't require you to draw your own weapon or to like brutalize them or anything like that. Like
the other day I saw those two dudes. I guess it was the dude who got shot in the Wendy's parking lot. There were two guys trying to restrain him. And I'm like, okay, do you guys not get any kind of training on, because it's two dudes on one guy. If you had any kind of, I would think they'd have some semblance of martial arts trainings on holds or whatever, that if you actually did it and practice it, one of you should be able to keep them down, and two of you should definitely be able to keep them down without this guy getting out of it. And I was just watching going, that doesn't look like either one of you know what the hell you're doing. Like neither one of you even have wrestled before in your life or anything, or I don't know what it was. It just looked like definitely some more training is necessary.
Did you see that meme that was floating around a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, that showed like, the number of officer homicides in the United States versus like Finland and Norway.
Oh, yeah. And it was the number of hours of training too. Is that it? Yeah. Ridiculous.
100 times more training than our guys get. And like, instead of, 18 months or 12 months of training, it's like 4 years. It's like getting a college degree.
My stepbrother applied to be a cop here, and it was almost as if college education he doesn't have a college degree. He has some associate's thing or something where he went to community college and he was a fireman for a while, and whatever, he decided he wanted to see if he could be a cop. But it was almost as if they cared more about your college education as far as it went, because you can't go above a certain rank if you don't have a college education. And so it was, to me, it was like, I don't understand, because if you've been an officer and you've grown up and grown up and grown up and got promoted, why do you have to get, ceilinged at a certain level just because you don't have a college education? And I would think that your experience and your ability to do your job well would be more important than whether or not you have a college degree.
Yeah, it's like operative training, right?
Yeah.
Like training on the job. I mean, like we talk about how important it is, or what's his name, that guy, the Dirty Jobs guy, he talks about
I know you're talking about. I can't remember his name though.
He's got a fun podcast too. All the unfilled, just sort of trade jobs, like a lot of people don't need to go to college. A lot of people need to learn how to weld, because we need welders, and they need to learn how to fix cars and all that stuff. But
A lot of those are six-figure jobs now too.
totally, yeah. And to your point about police officers, is that, do you want a guy who's got a college degree and been behind a desk, or do you want someone who's been on the beat, I guess, is the terminology,
Yeah.
just knows that job really well? And I wonder if they take that directly from the military, because I believe in the military you cap out at like a certain
I think you can't become
rank
an officer unless you went to college, or unless you were at West Point or someplace like that. I think you can only go so high, and then you can't go any higher if you haven't. Like if you go, my understanding is if you enlist, like say you're in high school and you just go in and enlist in the Army, you'll never be a general. You'll probably never. I don't think you'll never be a colonel, anything like that, because you're an enlisted man or whatever that means. So
you have to go to college, be in ROTC.
You can go to officer school or something like that. And,
interesting.
Yeah, I don't really. This vacation house, though, dude. Those pictures that were in it. You put up some thing on Instagram showing the pictures that were in that thing. Tell me about those.
Oh, they had themed the house based on eras of music. So there are these really great pictures all over the house of Sam Cooke and Muhammad Ali and the Rolling Stones and Janis Joplin.
Were they original images, or were they just like copies?
They were just prints. But it was nicely curated. Like in the master bedroom, it was Chet Baker, John Coltrane, and somebody. We had like the jazz room.
That's cool, though.
And my
have heroin in there too. Jazz room.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun. I love that mid-century modern style, like concrete floors and big outdoor space, and it
looked very cool.
Yeah, it was good. We had an amazing sunset the last night that we were there. Like that, there's no way that's real. That someone painted that. That's not possible. It was just the craziest. I think the desert just gets the best sunsets. It just, because of all this, I guess, of the sand that blows up and stuff. It just turns like the craziest red. Like you could capture it well. My iPhone did okay, but like I can imagine you there with like a real camera and time. You just like capture something. I mean, it'd be hard to take a bad picture of it, but like capture something truly amazing.
Yeah, they're saying that the sunsets on the East Coast are supposed to get better here pretty soon, because of the what is it? There's some kind of desert dust or something that's coming through. I saw.
I think it just reached you guys. Like it's like from the Sahara Desert.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, Sahara Desert, like just sand or whatever storm coming through. And it's supposed to hit and supposedly make really great sunsets.
I mean, that's part of the reason that LA was kind of known for the sunsets. It was because of all the smog.
Yeah, that's what I've always heard. You have great sunset. The more pollution, the better the sunset.
I'm so glad that we do have better air quality now, though. Holy moly! I talked to some of the people who live, because we live in the San Gabriel Valley.
Yeah,
talked to people who lived out here for ages, and it was.
Who was it? Somebody, was it Chung put up something?
Oh yeah,
a shot of his neighborhood or some place in LA. And like it's like you don't ever see this in LA. Yeah.
He right when the quarantine first started happening, I'm sure you guys saw some pictures, but nobody was driving. Like there was just nobody on the roads anywhere. Yeah. It's just odd. It's odd everywhere, but it's particularly odd for LA because we're known for be like going to like Beijing or something and like suddenly there are no cars. But man, the air was so clear. It was just insane. Like beautiful blue skies and beautiful clouds, and you could just see everything really well. Like we live pretty close to the San Gabriel Mountains, but they literally felt like you could just reach out and grab them. They were just so clear and so close.
Maybe they just need to give everybody an electric car. Trade in your car for an electric car. And
I think LA is the electric car capital of the United States, man. Like I see 50 Teslas a day.
God, they got that Tesla that'll do what 0 to 60 in like 3-4 seconds or some kind of thing like that. It's ridiculous, man. It's fast as hell.
Yeah, the one like the S model with like berserker mode on it or something. I don't know. It's called something. It's called Insanity or create something, but it's like under 2 seconds, 0 to 60.
Really? Damn.
There's some great YouTube videos of
knock your head back.
Again?
I bet they'll knock your head back when you hit the pedal on that thing.
Just YouTube it later. Like there's videos of people experiencing it, like from the passenger seat. Like someone They've just got a camera pointed towards the driver's seat, and it's just shocking to go that fast. Like on the NSX that we did the launch control, it was like 2.9 seconds, and that's just insanely fast. Like the little balloons beside it just turn into like a little red ball. But like subtracting a second from that, I can't even imagine. It was like,
and it's an electric car. That's what's amazing to me. That it's just electric and it'll go that fast.
Well, electric is cool because with electric motors, you get 100% torque immediately. So if it's tuned,
that explains it. Then, yeah.
So
okay.
like,
yeah, I didn't know that.
Torque, yeah, that was kind of my realization too. My brother had to explain that to me. He's an engineer, mechanical engineer. But yeah, it's 100% torque. So if it's geared that way, I mean, that's why like electric. There's an electric car that holds like the Pikes Peak record. The problem is batteries and longevity.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're stupid fast. They're crazy fast. My neighbor, who's a high-end used car dealer, he always brings home. There's a Maserati in his driveway one day, and then there's like a BMW 7 Series the next day, and all this stuff. But we were at a neighborhood Halloween party the other day, and I was talking to him, and he said, and I was like, "You get to pretty much drive everything. Like, what's the best car?" And he was just like, "Tesla, no question." The Tesla S,
Yeah.
like the top of the line one of those, which I think is about $175,000. It's like just luxurious. It's like beautifully styled, amazing performance. It's electric.
Yeah. A friend of mine has one. He's got the I can't remember. It's the hatchback kind of one. It's got 3 rows. Yeah, he's got one. We went. My daughter used to play travel volleyball, and so we were on a trip someplace, and he was like, "You guys want to ride with us to dinner?" Because we're pretty good friends. And it's like, yeah. So we go, and that's a cool car. Yeah. And then some dude, this big old redneck dude across from us, at one of the other girls' dads, he just looks at him and goes, "Man, can I ask you something without offending you?" He goes, "Probably. I don't know. I guess." He goes,
"I can't promise."
He's like, "You a tree hugger?" And he was like, "What?" He was like, "You got that electric car. Is that because you were all concerned about the environment?" He goes, "No, I'm actually really more of a tech head, all into the technical part of it." He's like, "Oh, all right." So I just didn't know if you were some tree hugger or not.
Wasn't that in North Carolina where like some rednecks parked their big F-250s and like perpendicular across all the charging stations just to like make a point?
No, I hadn't heard that one.
Such a douchey thing to do. Like, we don't agree with electric cars, so you can't charge yours.
It sounds like something that would happen here, but I didn't hear it. I don't know.
Georgia too. That's where I grew up. But yeah, it's. I think one day we'll have an electric car because they're just. Joe Rogan said that on his podcast recently. Just like, once he has a Tesla, and he said, just once you have an electric car, like you don't ever want to.
Yeah, I heard him talking about how great it was, and trying to convince. I can't remember who the guest was. Trying to convince his guest to go take a drive in it because he was like, once you take a test drive in it, you're going to want one. He said you'll go out and buy one.
We were in MotoGP one year. We used to go every year at Laguna Seca in Monterey. And one of the supporting class races was like Formula E, the electric motorcycles. It was kind of the first year of that. So MotoGP had their practice session. This was like Saturday afternoon. It was Friday afternoon. And I don't know if you've heard a MotoGP bike, but it's definitely loud, just ridiculously loud. So in the next class was going to be, for practice session, was going to be the Formula E bikes. And I was like, oh, cool, like electric motorcycles. So we were camping. So I just went behind the RV and was throwing the football with my friend's kid. And I was like, hey, call me when the electric bikes start. And we're like 40 feet from the track. And we're out there throwing the football. And like, it seemed like the session was started already. And I go back up there, and the bikes have been on track for like 10 minutes, and you can't hear them. All you can hear is just like tire noise.
Yeah.
And like wind. So we sat by the fence and we're like, it's hilarious. But
doesn't that take a little bit of something out of it though? Because I would think part of it's just hearing the engines running.
You got it. It's that visceral, like that feeling in your chest that you.
Yeah.
So I'm totally fine if the world goes totally electric, as long as they can have internal combustion for motorsports, and that'll be totally.
Yeah, because I would think hearing like
gotta have that
the
sound.
Formula Ones, the running or the NASCAR running, and not hearing a sound, just watching it just
Yeah.
be a little weird.
Have you ever been to a Top Fuel drag race before? I've only been to one, but
No, I haven't. I've watched them. I've seen them on TV, but I've never been. And they have a track. They have a track that'll run 4 wide here, about
really,
30 minutes, 40 minutes from the house. Yeah, I need to go check it out because they'll run 4 at a time.
It's worth seeing once or hearing once. It would definitely take earplugs. Like, it's the loudest thing. Like, it feels like violence. It's hard to explain. I've never experienced anything louder than that. I actually have a funny story. A long time ago, this girl I had just started dating, this was in San Francisco, wanted to take me to a race, and we were working for Sears Point at the time, and we're working at the same spot, so she got tickets to the NHR race at Sears Point. And the way they do it is they just set up. They have the main grandstand, but then they just set up another grandstand on the other side of it. So it's like bleachers, like temporary bleachers. So we go like watch the session, and I was just kind of overwhelmed at how loud these things were. Like, feel it in your chest. Like, even if you cover your ears, it doesn't work. So we were drinking beer and stuff, and the session was over. So I was like, I'm going to run to the bathroom. So I took my beer down, and I went to the porta potty, which is directly behind the bleachers. So bleachers are, I don't know, 20 rows high, but you're still like, I don't know, 30 feet from the track, 30, 40 feet from the track. So I'm in the Porto John, which is basically an echo chamber, and I'm taking a leak, and I'm holding my beer, and it wasn't the end of the session, and a Top Fuel dragster like fired up and went down the track, and it was, how it was just a reaction. Like, you can't, if you burn your hand, you're like, ow, you pull yourself away. Like, my purpose was like, I have to cover my ears, so I threw my hands up to my ears, just covered myself in beer.
God.
Feet all over my leg, and like, and I'm on a first date, right?
Oh God.
So I get done, I walk out, and like, I'm just drenched, and I go back up. I like do the little. It was like kind of the ultimate walk of shame, and I get back up there, and she just, as soon as she saw me, she just immediately, she was really quick and just got it in her head exactly what had happened and busted out laughing. But yeah, I was just like, I had to cover my ears. I could not cover my ears.
Oh my God, dude. That's okay. That's a little loud.
It was
talking about porta potties things. My dad was in Paris, and have you been to Paris, or how they have those porta potties, but you got to pay like a coin or whatever to get in for the door to open. So my stepmother had to pee, and so he got it, and they put in the coin. She went in, and him being the cheap dude he is, was thinking, all right, when you come out, just hold the door, and I'm going to go in, so I don't have to pay again. So she comes out, holds the door, he goes in, so he's getting ready to pee. All of a sudden, he hears this thing going, shh, and then poof, all this stuff blows out of the side to sanitize it. He can't get out because the door's locked. I guess it locks automatically when this thing starts spraying. He said he came out and he was blue from about waist down because it just sprayed with all this stuff to sanitize the porta john with.
I have always wondered what would happen if that happened, and now I know.
Yep, now you know. You just walk out completely soaked.
It was sanitized. I'm sure that with this next spike in COVID-19, they're going to do that to all of us too. As soon as we like walk into the store, they're just going to
get sprayed down. Yeah,
spray us down as we walk in, and spray us down as we walk out. No, that's
my God. Hey, tell me the story. I want you. Well, tell everybody else the story you told me about when you went to. I think it was a photography school, and we're talking to a bunch of wannabe photographers, and you brought in a bunch of promo pieces.
Oh yeah, that was funny. So my friend Norman Maslow, he's a rep.
Yeah.
He was in San Francisco for a long time, but he's in Seattle now. He was teaching a class for photographers about the business side of photography to photographers at the Art Institute in Chicago. I'm sorry, what's it called? And the one in San Francisco, the art school in San Francisco. I can't think of what it's called now, but it's kind of the big one that they go to. So I went in to give a guest lecture as a director of production at a San Francisco agency with these clients and yada yada. So one of the things I wanted to talk to them about was just the incredible amount of competition that they had out there, and not just sheer quantity, but quality. Like there's just some great photographers, great commercial photographers. You're one of them, so But like just the level of work that's being done now and then is pretty extraordinary, and there's just a lot of it. So I took in, and as a print producer, I got mailers like 15 to 20 a day from different
Still get a
photographers.
lot?
Well, everything I get now is more. I get more digital stuff now, and since I'm not really. I don't buy a lot of art like our art directors and art buyers do. I get contacted a lot.
I saw you were listed on AdBase because I just looked you up because I think that's how I found you originally, how we started, and I found you on Instagram. But I looked up just this today, or not today, like 2 days ago, and I saw that you were still listed in AdBase, and I was thinking, I just wondered how much email and whatever you get constantly.
I'll probably get 10 to 15 a day, I guess. So
yeah.
It's digital is just easier to manage. But because I was doing a lot more print as director of production. So everything that I got was the mailers and things, and just beautiful work. Some of the stuff here, I can show you this one thing.
Yeah.
I actually kept this one from years ago. This is Jim Erickson. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, I've heard his name. It looks like an album cover.
It is, and like it's just
crap!
Just like the level. I mean, this is all printed on like archival paper. These beautiful images. It was from a trip that he took down to Mexico.
Wow.
And this was just a promotional piece that he sent. Like, so obviously, he's from Raleigh, actually. Jim Erickson is from.
Yeah, I think that's what I've heard of him.
So I kept this. I've had this now for 20 years because it's just so awesome. Anyway.
Did you ever hire him?
Yes, one time.
Okay, well, good.
Yeah. Well, there's so many people that you just want to hire. He's got to have the right project that comes along. Like, I can't wait to work with you. Like, we're in the right project.
I had been sending out some stuff to one dude. We met at some kind of convention thing or something, and it was 5 years before anything popped up. And he literally called me I think it was on a Friday night. I was having dinner, and he called me and was like, "Hey, can you be in LA Sunday for a shoot on Monday?" I was like, "Sure, I can be there." I was like, because I work as a local in LA, and my first thought was, "Holy shit, how much is that flight going to cost me?" But I have friends to stay with, and I have crew there and all that. So I was like, okay, at least that's taken care of. Luckily, he called me back later that night. I was like, "Tell you what, let's make it Wednesday, and I'm going to fly you out. We have tons of points, so I'm going to fly you out." And I was like, "Oh, this is actually way more worth it." But yeah,
but 5 years
forever. It was 5 years before,
Yeah.
We just, I'd send an email every once in a while and just say, "Hey, here's some new work. Check it out. Let me know if anything ever pops up." And kind of just given up. It's like I was just doing it. I liked the dude. We talked a little bit, not like you and I do, but just like I'd talk to him maybe twice a year for about 2 minutes, and or an email or something back and forth. And it was literally like 5 years, and before anything ever kicked in.
That's wild. But hey, have you worked since?
He quit with the company. The company went. He quit working. It was a designer, and she was difficult. Because I would make suggestions like, what if we try this? I'm not doing that. That's not happening. I'm like, well, that could be really cool. Not happening. I'm like, all right, so you're paying your money, whatever. We won't do it. And after that, I think he was like, I'm out. And then
you gotta collaborate in this business.
That's good idea. Went to something totally different.
Everywhere.
She made me shoot in front of a fountain. And there was this really cool tree, and I wanted to shoot like this with the model by this really cool tree, not like senior portrait kind of hang out by the tree kind of thing, but I wanted to do this really cool shot because of the way the tree was and whatever. And we had just finished shooting in front of a fountain, like every parent wants to shoot their kid. And she told me no, we weren't shooting in front of a tree. That was too much like a school portrait shot, and it wasn't going to happen. I was like, "Oh wait, we just shot in front of a fountain," and I didn't say a word about it. I went ahead and I shot it and and it ended up being the cover, and it wasn't as bad. It ended up being okay, but I think the tree would have been cooler, but wasn't my deal. But
yeah, I think that's such an important part of the role of any creative is to just be open to collaboration, because you think, you come up with an idea and then sit down with a bunch of other creatives and you just poke holes in it. And every time you do it, it makes it stronger. It's like a bone healing, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And then, man, I've had great input, great notes from account people, from, obviously other creatives, from, production people, from engineers,
Yeah.
just good ideas. Everybody wants the work to be great. So it's really important to be open to ideas, unless you're talking to someone who's just notoriously just has to throw in their little thing and like, I want that to be yellow. I'm like, no, just shut up.
Yeah. If it's something where I don't think it's going to work out or be bad, I'll explain why.
Oh, sure.
And then I'll say, I don't think it because of this. And if they go, well, can we just try it anyway? I'm like, yeah, I have no problem with shooting something you guys want to shoot, or, if that's what you think is going to work, then I'll tell them, okay, if that's what you think, then let's go ahead and try it and we'll see. And if it works out, and sometimes it works out and I was wrong. And then other times you go, see, that's why I thought because of this. And they go, oh, okay, now I see. And I think some people just need that. They just need to see that, because I'll even do it in my head. Like I'll tell a model how I want them to pose. I'm like, I need you to do this, or let's try this little thing over here. And in my head, it looks great. Mm-hmm. Then when they actually do it, I go, yeah, no, that was my fault. That was a terrible idea. Let's move on. Exactly. Yes. Yeah, okay. So you go in. I'm sorry, I completely took you off track. But you go into class.
So go in, give my little speech about basically just teach a class about these are the things that producers and art buyers are looking for. These are the ways that you can stand out. This is how this is how licensing works. This is how what usage is. This is making sure that you create like a body of work that is reflective of you, but then update it regularly, because you always want to like show that you're not only working but continue to evolve as an artist and all that stuff. And then I got into the part about like, you just got tons of competition. So I had brought literally a garbage bag. It was about 6 months of collateral pieces that I'd gotten from great photographers, and beautifully printed, transparent envelopes, just all the stuff. And I had it behind the desk, and I just pulled it out. I was like, this is your competition. And they all kind of looked at it like that. And I was like, there's a lot of it. And I just dumped the bag onto the floor. And I was expecting them all to just kind of like cower and go like, oh my God, I'm going to give up. There's just too much. They immediately, like the whole class just swarmed this pile of stuff. And they were just like going through all of it and checking out, like doing the research. And they're like, can we keep this? Like, you can keep all of it. Like, I know like who all these people are and stuff. So they just grabbed a bunch of stuff. It was just a full-on research session for it. And so the thing that I thought would scare them the most actually like influenced them greatly and informed them. And like, that's the part that they like the best about it, which I thought.
I think that's a great story, man. I love that story because it's true. I remember being in Ralph Lauren. Have you been there? The Ralph Lauren headquarters in New York?
No.
Dude, okay. So when you walk in, the lobby area looks like this huge old mansion. It's all like red wood, dark wood everywhere, dark leather furniture, high end. Looks like you're in some multi-million-dollar home kind of thing. Then they take you down to where the art producers and creative directors and all that are. You go downstairs, all of a sudden it turns into like a prison area. It's like tile floors, gray walls, tiny little offices.
Holy crap.
But I was there showing my book I was trying to talk to them about shooting kids or something. And I was in the art producer's office, and over to the side of her was a stack of books, just this huge stack of portfolios that had been sent in to them for shoots. And I was like, that's all my competition. And then I was looking at it and I was reading the names on the binders of the books. And I was like, okay, this was just this was probably 20 years ago. And I was just like, this is a complete waste of my time to be in this room right now, because I'm seeing those names, and every one of them is a name that I have heard of who shot some major stuff. Yeah, it was
and the amount of money that they put into creating. I used to love portfolio reviews because you just get to see like the original ones when they bring in like the big leather things, and they're really art directed and stuff. They cost like $250, $300 a piece just to print. And just to have that as an investment that's just out at a place, and like hopefully we'll send it back to you, you know. But yeah, I used to love the portfolio reviews. I don't get as much time to do them
Last time I went
anymore,
and
but
saw somebody in, I don't think it happened in LA, but it was definitely in New York that I brought my book in and they're like, wow, you have a real book. And I'm like, yeah. And then then I went and was with this other art director and she's like, just bring your iPad. I don't want to have to go through all, I mean, the book's cool. I like it, but your iPad, she's like, everybody's got an iPad. I don't know anybody who brings a book to me anymore. And I'm like,
I remember
it's kind of cool because at least with the iPad, it's a lot lighter, first of all. And I'm not carrying like 2, 3 books with me, depending on what client I'm seeing. And
yeah.
then I can adjust, I can make little things in there for this is for Philip, this is for Ilana, this is for whoever, when I go see them, and just show you the work that's pertinent to you, as opposed to like, well, here's my book and I'm hoping that, maybe a shot or two in there will work. And like I said, it's a lot lighter. So that part's nice.
Well, it's got to be just so much more efficient, but there is something that it does get lost with digital. I mean,
I agree.
It's not bad by any means, but there's just something special about listening to like a record versus listening to like something like an MP3.
I think it appeals more to the people who've been in the business longer. I think you get like the 20-something-year-old, that's the art producer or whatever, and then they're just like, you have a book? Okay, how old are you? And because I think they're so used to digital now, it's all iPad, it's all whatever, laptops or whatever at this point for them.
Yes, something about like this Ericsson piece, it's just tactile.
I like them better. I like the portfolios better. I like the printed stuff better. Personally,
I remember reps like Heather and Norman coming to see us at the firehouse, and they've got their little dolly of like books like strapped down, and they're like 20 of them or 15 of them in there, and they're all beautiful, but they're strapped in and they're just walking down the sidewalk with this thing. When they could have all that on a laptop, on a iPad, I can totally see why people would want to go with the iPad.
Yeah, it'd be a lot easier for sure. When they came to see, did they always bring like drinks and food and all that kind of stuff? Or was it a little scary?
I mean, they would ask beforehand if we wanted to, and sometimes if we didn't have a lot of time, they would. But if it was going to be like a full showing where I could get all the art directors there and creative directors there, and we can like hang out, because it's a nice break in the day. Is there and look at pretty pictures for 45 minutes. Like, it's great. You have to come see us in our new office when you get back here. Our first day of our new space in downtown LA Arts District was the first day of stay-at-home quarantine.
Really?
March 15th. We were literally
disappointing.
Moving out of the Culver City office, and like amazing new space. Not quite as amazing as working from home, I'm just going to say, but like beautiful views, like crazy like workspaces, and all kinds of great opportunities.
Have you guys decided when you're going back to work yet? Like going actually into the office?
No, my guess is 2021.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing from a lot of people. They're out till the end of the year. Somebody told me they know somebody whose company, I can't remember what company it is, but it's something. It's not an ad agency, but it's some other company. It's completely outside of this world, but they're not going back till January of 2022.
Really?
They've already decided that they're just going to stay home all next year as well.
Well, I think a lot of companies are going to reassess. I think was it Twitter that's already said that their employees can work from home permanently if they want to. I think Amazon's not going back. Not Amazon. Apple's not going back until 2021.
Yeah, I've heard some people say it's more efficient.
It's such overhead. Like Accenture's already completely set up for people to work remotely as it is. So the transition to working remotely for me was only just not being able to see my team. And
right.
As a creative, it's important to like hang out on the couch and stare at each other's shoes and come up with the ideas and stuff. So doing all that kind of remotely, there's something lost there. But everything else that we've been doing it's so easy. And I try to like move around the house. Like I'll work outside half the day. I'll work here in the kitchen. I'll work in my office. Just try to do it in different spaces and keep it fresh. But I'm fine working from home, man. It doesn't. I mean, I miss my team, and I'd love to be able to see them once or twice a week. But the idea of getting in a car and driving somewhere when I can do exactly what I'm doing about that space, Again, I totally understand that I'm really lucky to be able to transition and keep working, and this quarantine hasn't
How's
affected.
it been going for you guys? Are you staying busy?
Yeah, man. Like
Yeah.
I'm busy now as I've been in a couple of years, because
Wow.
everything that we're doing is COVID related. We did a big branding campaign, like a COVID preparedness, that turned into a branding campaign for a big hospital on the East Coast, like a really big one that you've heard of. That was, social and print and outdoor and radio and
Are you shooting that?
no,
So it's just, is it all like illustration or
no, we had
previous stuff?
a very, very interesting question, because that was an important part of it. Is they really needed to have, we're going to use stock,
Right.
because basically it's like people in masks, and PPE. But then it went to like the highest levels of the hospital, and they really wanted it to be authentic, because they wanted it to feel authentic. So we ended up having to, because we couldn't go shoot, because we just couldn't. We're not going to go into hospital and want to do that. So they were having like some portrait photography done. So we kind of asked that photographer, who was already going to be there, to shoot some stuff for us. We did a lot of UGC with their staff who were taking pictures, and that was some of the social stuff. But I mean, it was really sourcing them and getting the images for that campaign was really, really, really challenging. It turned out really well. I'll send you some of the stuff, and
Yeah.
capturing that sort of like that thing we talked about yesterday about hyperrealism, because that's essentially what it is. Like, you've got to show that, like, this person who is in this mask, but you can see in their eyes that they're completely focused on this task at hand. So that was really interesting. I worked on some stuff just recently for a big life insurance company that was about protecting your assets in times of uncertainty. But the big thing that I've been working on for the last month and a half, and I literally didn't get a day off for a month and a half, was with the state of California, California Department of Public Health contact tracing awareness campaign. So we're working with the governor's office and CDPH, and big social campaign, radio, YouTube videos and stuff, and translated, and has so many stakeholders, man. I mean, literally, like, the governor's office ultimately had to like sign off on the stuff that we did, and then there were so many after them who had to sign off after they did.
Got it. I bet no wonder it took so long.
Yeah, but we did some really good work, and so, not only am I super appreciative of being able to work from home, but having the work, but like, this stuff that we're doing right now feels really important. Like we've saved a life, hopefully, or saved lives. What we're doing is going to make someone go, because ultimately what we're trying to get them to do is just answer the call. The California COVID team calls, answer the call. It's not scary. All we do is ask you some questions, and you either tested positive or you've been around someone who's tested positive, and like, every single person who answers the call like moves the needle a little bit in the right direction. So we're close to like 50% now, which is huge. 50% of people taking the call and answering the questions and stuff. But it's scary, government calls, like, we have a whole story in one of our social campaigns about, because California obviously has some undocumented people, and here's the questions that we will never ask you. Like, what are we never going to ask you? You want to know what we're going to ask you? We'll get to that in a second. Here's what we'll never ask you. We'll never ask you about your immigration status. We'll never ask you for your passwords. We'll never ask you your bank account. We'll never ask you about your legal status. None of that stuff. What we'll ask you, like, how are you feeling? Like, got some symptoms? Like, here's a place you can get some testing done. Here's some access to, like, reduced cost medical care, like all that stuff. So it really feels like we're doing some good, which everybody wants to do. I mean, you can only sell widgets for long, right? But like, feeling good about the work. So I took a week off because we're about to kick off phase 2 of it starting tomorrow.
It's just had another month and a half of nonstop.
Yeah, it was really interesting too. It was right in the middle of it. Was we had everything approved, and then the protests started. And so we had to change. We had to change a lot of the messaging. We had to redo stuff, get it all reapproved, because people were thinking about different things.
Right.
God, this year, man, 2020.
Dude.
What is it? Someone on Twitter yesterday, something about hindsight Sure, hindsight is 2020, but now it's said by someone from the future.
I saw one. It was something about, remember that mummy that they discovered in the black sarcophagus that said "Do not ever open ever," and the doctor, whoever discovered it, was like, it'll be fine. It's like,
That's like a Far Side cartoon or something.
yeah, it'll be fine. Go ahead and open it now. And then you see, like, okay, welcome to 2020. The
like
curses happened.
From The Exorcist, right? Where it like pulls that little.
Oh yes,
yeah.
Dude, that movie. There's supposedly something about the whole set was cursed or something. Have you heard that?
No.
There's some whole article, and I think there's a documentary on the whole thing about how the set of that whole movie was just cursed.
Oh wow.
All these different awful things that kept happening to people, either during, or after they filmed that movie.
I know that I remember reading that like Linda Blair had some emotional mental issues.
I bet she did. As a parent, you look at the script and you go, yeah, my kid can handle that. That'll be good. Let's go ahead and stick her in that.
Exactly. Be a great start for her career.
She'll be fine. Yeah. I'd be like, okay, she'll do it, but we need an extra $100,000 for therapy, which needs to start the day after she finishes
her life.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, some people, and then she got typecast and could never play anything else. It was like, what's her name, Faye Dunaway, after playing Joan Crawford and Mommy Dearest. Like it was really hard to get another. She embodied and embraced that role so fully and completely. Like everybody just saw her as that for the rest of her career.
Or Ginger on Gilligan's Island.
Oh yeah, yeah. What do you do?
Uh,
I've never seen her in anything but that.
Yeah, evidently Ginger, she was some big time like Broadway chick.
Was she really?
Yeah, and after that she wasn't getting a lot of work, and she hated the show because of it, because it kind of typecast her into that role, and she was not happy with it after. But I guess a lot of them did. Think about like Bob Denver, Gilligan.
Yeah.
What the hell else did he do?
I wonder, did anyone do anything after that?
And then the Skipper, I saw him and stuff. I've seen him and stuff before, but I don't know that I saw him in a bunch of stuff after.
Yeah. Sometimes the blessing could be a curse, right?
Yeah. And that show didn't last long. It was on like three seasons, maybe, something like that. It got bumped for Gunsmoke. Supposedly Gunsmoke was a half hour, and they're moving it to an hour, and they needed extra space. And the rumor or the thing I read was the wife of the head of the studio liked Gunsmoke and didn't really like Gilligan's Island, so they just bumped Gilligan's Island for that extra half an hour they needed for Gunsmoke to continue running, because Gunsmoke had been running like a half hour thing from like the 50s or something. And then they expanded it somehow to an hour, and it ended up kicking Gilligan off the air.
I think Gunsmoke needs the full hour, because you can't like have the crime, have the solve, kill the bad guy in 30 minutes. That would just be rushing it. That would just be really rushing it.
It's tough to do all that. But then again, back then it was one shot, one kill. There was you didn't have to shoot 15 times and miss the guy until you finally shot him. It was just like, boom. Dude's dead on the ground. No blood, nothing, just dead man.
If the shot didn't kill him, the fall off the horse would.
Yeah, exactly. It's just one shot, done. My dad's watching that. He had some surgery done. He's not supposed to move around a lot, and he said he's just sitting there watching like every episode of Gunsmoke there is. They're like thousands. They're like 1,000 episodes or something like that. He's like, well, I'm episode like 200 now.
That's like it's like binging, but before binging.
Yeah. So he's just sitting there watching it. All right, we're hitting up on a little after. I tell you what,
an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's
all right,
awesome.
Couple other things. We'll make it quick, and then I'll ask you the last question.
All right.
Where did your obsession with Marilyn Monroe come from? Not that she's not hot and everything, but she was a little before your time.
I lived in Hollywood. Like, that's weird sort of thing. I was living in London for a while when I was like just out of high school, and then I took a couple of years off before going to college, and ended up in Hollywood. And I was living like on Hollywood Boulevard, and something happened. I just like fell in love with her. I even have a tattoo.
Damn, man, you do. Wow.
Um,
That's
then
obsession
yeah,
right
so
there.
I just kind of stuck. I don't know. I'm just I think she was like a tortured soul, but like extraordinarily gifted actor, beautiful, funny, smart, really smart, just really smart. I don't know, just I adore her. I just love her to death.
Do you blame the Kennedys?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Kennedy's mob, something like I don't think she committed suicide, but I mean, it wouldn't. I don't know. Like she wasn't really in a good place when she died, and she was taking a lot of pills and doing drinking and stuff. But it, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but there was some level of foul play,
Well, I
probably.
think yeah. I mean, when you're banging the president and the mob's pissed at the president, and although I can't believe they just didn't use that against him, just like, hey, we're gonna let everybody know, do what we want you to do, or else, we're gonna kill the girl, or let everybody know White House, the Kennedys aren't as perfect as everybody thinks they are, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
No, definitely. They definitely were not. But man, just thinking the other day about the way events can inform the future. Like, well, how different would the '70s have been had Robert Kennedy not been killed, assassinated? I don't think Nixon would have been president. We wouldn't have had
Yeah.
Watergate. Like the '70s would have been different. I mean, I think Kennedy would have won hands easily. So, I mean, just like that trajectory, like what would have happened had it not happened?
I was listening to Joe Rogan the other day, and there was a dude who wrote a book about basically about Manson, and he spent like 20 years of his life writing this book to all this. And as it went by, the CIA became involved in different things, and it was like, you pull the string and it just keeps unraveling, kind of a thing. And so he like went this thing from, he just started off on like a 6 month deal on Charles Manson, which turned into a year, which turned into 20 years. And it had the CIA, but then this doctor that was involved somehow was also had some CIA thing, and then that led him to that, which led him to the Kennedys a little bit, and then that led to finding out that basically the military men around Kennedy had considered overthrowing Kennedy because they wanted to invade Cuba, to the point where they were going to send a airliner over Cuba and blow it up themselves and say that the Cubans did it
Oh my God.
and all this stuff. So he was like, and then this whole magic bullet thing. So this
That,
dude was all into like, yeah, it's CIA or the mob or somebody. They had something to do with the Kennedy assassination. It was not just, this
I,
one dude who did it.
yeah, with Kennedy, I totally agree that there was definitely some machinations that caused that to happen, and it was to your point. It was probably a little bit of this, a little bit of the mob, a little bit of CIA, a little bit of
Yeah.
but yeah, interesting times. I think there's so much we don't know. And Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, I mean, this whole thing was talking about all these experiments that the CIA was doing back then on people that they had no clue was happening. It's with LSD and all this other stuff. And it's like, and it's all documented. So he was like, this guy was, I cannot remember the name of the book, but his whole thing was, I'm not putting anything that's just conspiracy theory into this. I am backing up everything with facts. So anything I put into this book, you can go see the paperwork that I found that proves what I'm saying is true, to the point where he alluded to the fact that Manson may have been working for the CIA to help with the LSD thing, because he was he was in prison, he was let out on parole, but he would get arrested, and then all of a sudden he would just be let loose. He'd be arrested for weapons violations, let loose. He threatened sheriffs with like, I have guys in the mountains with their guns on you right now who will shoot you, and they never did anything about it. So his whole thing was, he couldn't prove that part, but he said he had a feeling that Manson was being used by the CIA to help with experiments, and that's
Yeah,
why he kept getting off.
I think Epstein was pretty well connected to at some
That
level.
dude, somebody had to kill him.
Oh, definitely so. Yeah, no question. But I mean, I just think that he was able to get away with it for so long. I think he was doing something for some. I don't know what it was, but like, no one's that connected. He wasn't even like stupid wealthy. Like when I don't know if you watched his documentary. I mean, he's stupidly wealthy, but like I think his assets were like $500 million. It wasn't like he was like a multi-billionaire or anything.
Right.
But he just knew everybody, and I think he was, I don't know.
I think when you have the right info on people, you can
Yeah.
pretty much get by. Because we were watching Taken the other night, or I was watching it, and Tammy came in. I was like, "What are you watching?" I told her I'm watching Taken, and she couldn't. I don't know if she'd seen it or hadn't seen it. And I was saying, this is where like these girls are being abducted in foreign countries and they're being turned into sex slaves, but then they realized that they could sell some of these girls and make a lot more money, and she was like, oh, like Jeffrey Epstein kind of a thing. I was like, yeah, I guess it was kind of something similar to that.
That's the one that I haven't seen that, but that's the one where he goes like, I will find you and I will kill you. I have a particular set of skills or whatever.
Yeah, because his daughter she's in Paris and he's been calling her and because she was off the plane. He's worried because he's like some dude who was basically went around the world for the government killing people or stopping things from happening. And so she finally picks up the phone. He's talking to her and he's telling her how he's upset that she lied to him about he knows she's going on following YouTube around the Europe instead of just staying in Paris, going to museums.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, these dudes break in, and she's in the top floor of this place, and these people aren't there. They're supposed to have been there, who are friends of her friends. She sees these guys come in. His dad goes, get under the bed, keep your phone on. When they get you, I want you to scream out everything that you can about what's going on, how old they are, what they look like, any scars, tattoos, what they're wearing, all this stuff. So eventually they come in. She's freaking out. They walk out of the room. She goes, they just left the room. Next thing you know, she goes flying out of the shot. This dude's grabbed her by the legs, rips her out. She starts screaming what's going on. The dude picks up the phone and doesn't say anything. And finally, Liam Neeson says, I don't know who you are, but if you just let my daughter go now, we'll forget all about this whole thing. If you don't, he's like, I don't have any money, so I can't give you money. There's no use in trying to ransom her out because I don't have any cash. He said, but what I do have is a very specific set of skills that I've honed over all the years, and I will find you and I will kill you. And then the guy says, good luck. And dude saying good luck completely screwed him. So he said it to his friends. He found out where it was coming from. He listened to that good luck thing over and over and over and over again on the flight over there. Found the group of the dudes went into a thing acting like he was somebody else. He wrote down good luck in Albanian or whatever the hell the language was, and the guy read it, and he was like, that's the dude. And he just started lighting everybody up, and then it just went on and on from there, man. Like that's in the first like half hour.
That is such a classic line from a movie. He already had a great career before that, but that's a career-defining line right there.
Yeah, it was great. And then they'll do like Taken 2, Taken 3, all that. Yeah, but it will freak you out a little bit if you have, since you have a daughter, and if you think about her going to Europe or someplace or any place by herself, then it kind of, because my daughter was supposed to go to Rome in May. For a study abroad thing, and there she was going to be there for like a month and a half, and then this whole thing shut it down. So,
Stella just turned 18 last week.
Oh yeah, that's right. Congratulations! Crazy. And graduated. Is she going to go to school, or is she going to do something else?
She's going to Pacific College of the Northwest.
Okay.
Pacific Northwest College of the Arts. She went to an arts high school, an all arts high school. So she was
that's very cool.
Yeah, they gave her a nice scholarship, and
nice.
She's good at Portland. She's excited. I don't believe that they'll have in-person classes in the fall.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, it is kind of a bummer because they missed the graduation, missed prom. Like,
yeah,
I'm not going to get to like kick off college. I mean, they will eventually, but I feel for the graduates of 2020. Man, they've had a hard road.
Yeah, it's been tough, man. My youngest, she graduates next year, this coming year, and I was very happy that it wasn't this year because she plays volleyball, and although volleyball season ended before all this happened, so it was fine. But I was thinking, hopefully they're going to be able to play this year because they have like a senior night and they recognize the seniors, and she'll be a senior this year and all that kind of stuff, and she's looking forward to that. And then the prom and all that stuff, like you guys have had to go through missing all that, so. Can't imagine that's a whole lot. That's too much fun.
Yeah, because she was at an art school, like they don't have a lot of the, just it's kind of the traditional high school things like football games, basketball games,
right?
pep rallies and stuff like that. I mean, they have like amazing stuff. They have like shows and, you know, art gallery openings and the stuff that other high schools don't have. So things like prom and graduation, where they actually have like a traditional ceremony, they were looking forward to. I mean, they did an online one and it was okay, but
yeah, not quite the same.
yeah, that's their cap and gown right there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way they do it now, at least here, is they do it inside in a college, in like an arena. Where when I graduated, it was on the football field in the heat. You know, you just sat there, you just sweated for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and some dude spoke that you didn't know. I mean, we had the guy who owned the Charlotte Hornets basketball team speak at ours, and the only thing I remember from the entire thing was him saying, "I graduated last in my class and had to go to summer school to do it, and never went to college, and now I'm multimillionaire and on a basketball team."
So after the you know, the keynote address, then you basically sit there for hours while someone just reads the phone book.
Yeah, yeah. My nephew was graduating this year, and actually, crap, I need to send him some money. Still haven't sent him any money, but he graduated, and that was the one thing I was like, well, thank God I don't have to go sit through 2 hours of listening to all these other people, you know, their names being called out, just so I can see him for 30 seconds, walk across the stage or less, and do that. All right, man, I'm going to ask you the last question, officially anyway. What's the strangest thing that's happened to you since you've been in this business?
It was indirectly related to this business, and it wasn't really strange. It was just kind of mind blowing for me because I'm such a fan of MotoGP. But my client at Sears Point Raceway, a guy named Melvin Record, super cool British guy, was their director of marketing for a lot of years, and then he ended up going to Laguna Seca, Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, and being their director of marketing. And he hired me the first year of MotoGP to do some marketing work, just some, you know, basically I did it for free tickets and passes and stuff, because it wasn't very much. But then the next year, they were having a second AMA race, which is the American Association of Motorcycles, in September. And so he hired me to come write the program for that, and based on just his connection with me from advertising. He wasn't really a client so much then. I was just kind of doing a little freelance work stuff on the side. But he hired me as a reporter, basically, to create all the content for this race. So I got backstage passes to a Grand Prix, which is really hard to get. I mean, it's like full on Velvet Rope Studio 54. Like I had a pass to go anywhere in the paddock, and also had an opportunity, because I was interviewing people for the program, to talk to like all of my motorcycle heroes from every generation. Like I got to talk to Kenny Roberts and Colin Edwards and all the guys who are currently racing, Nicky Hayden and who else? I can't even remember now. But basically, because it was the U.S. Grand Prix, so like the who's who of motorsports is there. Like Brad Pitt shows up on Sunday, sort of thing. But the thing that blew me away was like my favorite sportsman of all time is this guy named Valentino Rossi. He's an Italian motorcycle rider. He's won the world championship like 9 times, and he's an Italian guy. He's in his 40s now, but he's still competing at the very, very highest level. Like he's the top 5 guy at 42 years old. Anyway, I got to meet and talk to him for a little while. I got to interview him, and I was so literally starstruck that I couldn't believe it. I was literally like standing next to and talking to the person who I literally look at as a godlike figure. And I got to do that because I had made this connection with a client who carried that connection with him to his new place, and then hired me to do something completely that wasn't my job, which is to be a journalist, essentially. And I got to meet my motorcycle hero, Valentino Rossi, and chat with him and talk to him. And it was totally amazing. I still have the voice recordings of it. Yeah, so I would say that was the craziest thing, because it was just a connection, and it just turned into this actual, like, absolute memorable, like, life, not with life changing, but like a top 3 moment in a life. Like, wow, I'm sitting here talking to this person who I just so admire,
Yeah.
and it was just great.
That's very
really
cool,
great.
man.
Yeah. And he won the race that Sunday
Even
too.
better. Hell yeah.
He won the race.
Well, dude, thank you for doing this.
This has been great.
I appreciate it. I really enjoyed it. Anybody watching, listening, whatever, if you guys like it, thumbs up it, like it, share it, subscribe to it, all that kind of stuff. Do your thing. We'll keep it going, and we'll talk to you all soon.